Hey everyone, back again. Today we're going to be going over some of the best controller options for the iPhone. Hey, real quick, I just want to throw out there that I do stream on Twitch Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to come, check out the links below in the description. Come follow me, come hang out. I'm usually making a fool of myself, but we have a good time. It's a lot of fun. Hope to see you there. And also, before we get started, if you could just real quick click that like and subscribe button, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're enjoying these videos, I have a lot of fun making them, and it would just be awesome if you could do that. All right, I'll wait. Done? Let's go. So a few months back, I did a review on the Backbone 1 iPhone controller, and I also did a review for the Razer Kishi controller. And the Backbone 1 controller actually is over 6,000 plays, and the Razer Kishi video is over 2,000 plays. So thank you all for watching those. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Got tons of likes, and having a lot of fun making these videos, and I'm just glad you all like those ones. So this is going to cover some of the stuff that I talked about in those, but this is more a direct comparison of these controllers, as well as PS5, DualSense, and Xbox Series X controller mounts for the phone. So they actually have these mounts you can put your phone in, and your phone just snaps right in. It connects via Bluetooth, and then you can just keep playing and doing whatever you want to do. It's a great option, and I wanted to kind of compare them with the Backbone and the Kishi. In today's video, we are comparing the Backbone 1, the Razer Kishi, and as well as the PS5 and Xbox One controller mounts, and see what features they have, which ones are better, which ones are preferred, and basically my thoughts on the controller and what kind of things you might want to think about when going through these options and deciding on which one to go with. So at the end, I'll gather all my thoughts, put together everything that I had in the video, and sort of come to like a conclusion and my overall opinions on each of them and what might be best for what you're looking for. Because a lot of people have different thoughts on these controllers. Some people hate taking their case off. Some people don't care. I personally am not that big. I don't like having to take my case off, but it's not a deal breaker for me. For some others, it might be a deal breaker. And for some others, price might be a huge option. You may not have $100 to spend on a controller. You may already have an Xbox Series S controller, or an Xbox Series X controller, or a PS5 controller. All right, so I'm gonna start off with the Razer Kishi. The Razer Kishi has a collapsible form factor with a locking mechanism on the back. The two tabs on the back release the lock and it unfolds. For the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, make sure to remove the inside rubber piece on the right side. The USB-C connector will not insert completely, and the controller won't work unless it is removed. I made this mistake on my first attempt in using with my new iPhone Pro Max. You do have to remove the case for the iPhone to work with the Kishi. After removing that piece, the iPhone fits in nicely on each side and held together by the tension of the back strap. I recommend inserting the USB-C connector first and then attaching the left side afterwards. Analog sticks are fantastic. Both have clickable R3, L3 buttons. The right side has standard XYAB buttons, a menu/start button, an R1 bumper button, as well as an R2 trigger function. There is also a USB pass-through, so you can charge while gaming, which is a nice feature. Left side has a standard D-pad, a home button, a select option button. There is also an L1 bumper button and L2 trigger. In general, I liked the overall feel. The analog sticks are amazing, as are the left and right triggers. Both provide a nice range of movement. Gaming works really well overall, and with the controller and experience is pretty good. The Backbone controller actually has the opposite problem of using an iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max. You have to order an adapter piece, which is free from Backbone. Check the link in the description. You do have to pay for shipping. Once you get the adapter, it slides on pretty easy on the left side of the controller. It actually works pretty well, really no complaints with the fit. The right side of the controller is pretty standard with XYAB buttons, analog stick with R3 click, a backbone button that opens their native app, a start/menu button, R1 bumper, and R2 triggers. The bottom right also has USB-C pass-through. The left side also has L1 bumper button, L2 trigger, analog stick with L3 click, D-pad, screenshot button, and option/select button. The bottom left side also has a 3.5mm headphone jack, which I think is a pretty nice feature. I really enjoyed gaming on the controller. The elongated left and right side provides a nice handle for my pinky and ring fingers to grab onto, which the Razer Kishi does not. I'll get into more on that soon. The analog sticks are the best. They work fine, and if you have ever used a Switch Joy-Con, you'll understand what I mean. The Xbox Series X controller mount is pretty easy to set up. The mount simply wraps around the front. To connect via Bluetooth, just hold down the top right connect button until the Xbox button flashes. On your phone, select the Xbox controller, and boom, good to go. The phone simply snaps into the holder. You do not need to remove your case. The phone simply snaps into the holder. You do not need to remove your case. This brand has notches that can tighten and loosen in order to adjust the phone position. Gaming with the Xbox controller works pretty much flawlessly, as seen here with me playing Doom on xCloud. It just works really well. The PS5 controller mount works pretty much the same way. The phone snaps in fairly easily with a phone case. In order to put the PS5 controller into Bluetooth mode, you just hold the share button and the PlayStation button when it's in an off state until you see the blue lights flashing. It actually has two sets of knobs that allows for more options when it comes to positioning, which I did like, and the controller works just as well as the Xbox controller in my opinion. It's mostly preference at this point when deciding which one to use. Alright, comparison. The Backbone 1 controller costs $100, and you get 1 month free of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And the Razer Kishi is also $100. And the mounts that I bought, you can find different ones on Amazon. There's a whole bunch of different ones. I'll put the links on the ones that I have in the description below. Those are about 13 bucks a piece, so pretty cheap. All right, now for some of the cons on these controllers. Starting with the Razer Kishi, I did not like the XYAB buttons. I said this in my previous video. They have a mushy feeling or a unresponsive feeling, like when you push the button, they should bounce back faster, I feel like. They just don't feel good when you push them. They don't feel quite as responsive. I mean, they work. There's not an issue there. I just don't like the feeling of it because I feel like if I have to tap it a bunch of times, it's not gonna be as responsive compared to the other controllers. And then the big issue with the Kishi was it does not have the elongated handles on each side that pretty much every modern day controller has these days. And for me, after long gaming sessions using the Razer Kishi, I actually started feeling pain in my hands, mostly in my pinkies and stuff. I think a lot of people who have gamed on the Switch would understand this, playing with the handheld mode of the Switch. For me, it just caused pain in my hands. It wasn't comfortable after a long period of time. It really sucks. And also with the Razer Kishi, one of the cons is you have to take off your case. So if that's a big thing for you or a deal breaker for you, you may not want to get the Razer Kishi. But for it to work, you do have to take the case off. Same thing with the Backbone 1. You do have to take the case off. If you're going to use it, there's no way around it. The other downside with the Backbone 1, if you have an iPhone Pro or Pro Max, you have to order the adapter piece separately, and it costs shipping, which is not a lot, it's like $5. But when they first started making them, they were hard to find. And so actually it's not that hard to find them. You can actually buy 3D printed ones off like Etsy if you wanted to, but it's still an added cost and something that you have to be aware of. If you don't know this, you're not watching this video, you won't know that you have to go and get one of those adapter pieces, which sucks because I know somebody who actually bought one and they couldn't use their phone with it. The other con with that, I would say, is the analog sticks. When you compare it to the Razer Kishi's analog sticks, they feel cheap. It's like a Switch Joy-Con analog stick. It works, but they just don't have the best feel. It works, but the Razer Kishi's is just that much better. Now for the controller phone mounts, the biggest issue, the biggest con that I had with those is that the phone that I have is the iPhone Pro Max, and with the case, it's pretty heavy. And so when I would game with it attached to these controllers, it just felt uncomfortable. Now the one that I did buy for the PS5 actually has a little bit more adjustments because of that second set of notches in there that you can bend and adjust. But that was very uncomfortable to game like that if you're sitting in a chair. If you could put your elbows on a table or a desk or on chair arms, it might work out for you, but it was not very comfortable. I didn't like the comfortness when it came to the Pro Max using it on one of those controllers, just because of the way it's mounted and it gets to be pretty heavy. Now maybe if it was a lighter phone, would actually be a better experience overall. Just the iPhone Pro Max is just stupid big. I actually kind of regret, I wish I would have gotten just the Pro Max instead of something that big. All right, time for my final thoughts. In general, for me personally, I still prefer the Backbone 1. Just the pass-through for the headphone jack, the snapshot button, the overall feel. I just liked it better than all the other options that I had. Given that I had the iPhone Pro Max, I'm completely basing this on my current phone on the iPhone Pro Max. So some of these things may differ for you, and that's what I'm trying to provide for you all, is options and to see if you have a smaller phone, maybe you might actually like the standard controller mounts. I really don't mind having to remove my case in general, and the XYAB buttons are just so good. Like, man, I don't know if you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that? Oh, it's so good. It's just so satisfying, the clickiness of it. I love it. It works so great. So for me, the Razer Kishi design just did not work for me, and it sucks because the analog sticks and the triggers, the LNR triggers, are so good. Like, it feels like a good quality controller in that regard. The downside is it does not have those elongated left and right controller design, and for me, that's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker for me. I can't play that using that controller for long periods of time without getting pain in my hands. So the Razer Kishi design just doesn't work for me. It sucks because the LNR and the left and right analog sticks are fantastic. They work so well. They have lots of range of movements. It's just they don't have the elongated left and right side on that controller, that design. They don't have that elongated for my fingers to grip onto, and it just causes pain and uncomfortableness. I don't even think that's a word, but it just doesn't feel comfortable in general using that controller, and that was what really killed it for me. And given some of the extra features that the Backbone has, now I know the screenshot thing isn't that big of a deal. You can create a button on your iPhone on the screen, you can just tap it, or you can but I just liked having that button right there, and I can push it and I can either record or I can take screenshots, and I just really like that feature on the Backbone controller. It's just great. And compared to the Backbone and the Razer Kishi, I'm gonna go with the Backbone every single time because of that elongated design that it's missing, that the Backbone has. And that's pretty much why I went with those. Now for the handheld or the controller mounts, now for those, it was just the fact that my phone was too heavy. I just didn't like the heaviness of the controller sitting on a mount and trying to play games on it. Other than that, it works great. Like, it is a great option. And this is where it gets interesting, because the Backbone 1 is $100. The Razer Kishi is $100. The controller mounts are like anywhere between 10 to 15 bucks on Amazon. So if you already have a controller, if you already have one of these controllers, which you probably do, I think a lot of us do, all you have to do is just buy one of those, slap it on, and boom. Especially if you're traveling, like, you don't need to spend $100 on one of these controllers, and it works great. And especially if you have a smaller phone that's not as heavy, a smaller iPhone that's not as heavy. And you also don't need a case for them. So the way I ranked these ones is I went with the Backbone 1, just in general overall. I really love that controller. For whatever it is, the reasons that I laid out, I just like that controller. Number 2 would be the controller mounts, attachment mounts, and then the Razer Kishi would be my third option. And that's just how I feel. So if removing your case is a big issue for you, I would really look into getting one of those controller mounts and using a PS5 or an Xbox controller. I really seriously would look into doing that, because it works great. Let me know in the comments if you have a controller. Do you use one? Did you buy one? What do you think about it? I think they're all great options.